What if I told you that most of your choices are not made by you, but by your unconscious? Imagine, for a moment, that you are not the true commander of your life. You believe you make conscious decisions, that you act rationally, and that you have complete control over your choices. But what if I told you that's not quite the case? What if most of your choices were already being made silently without you even realizing it? This is precisely where Freud's most provocative idea comes in: the unconscious. Freud invites us to reflect on something that, at first glance, seems uncomfortable: that the human mind is not a clear and transparent surface, but a deep and mysterious ocean, where invisible currents move our thoughts, our desires, and even our pain. These currents, hidden in the depths of the unconscious, push us in unexpected directions, even when we believe we are in control. When you decide to pursue a career path, choose a friendship, or even end a relationship, are you acting on a conscious decision, or is something hidden, an old desire, a repressed memory, a childhood experience, whispering in the background, guiding your hand without you even realizing it? This is the great provocation of psychoanalysis, to show that we are not as masters of ourselves as we like to believe. Think about how many times you've asked yourself, why did I do this? Why did I say that? What led me to repeat this mistake? Often there's no clear explanation. It feels like an impulse, an invisible force. Freud believed that it is precisely the unconscious that acts in these moments, guiding our lives from the shadows. And it is this idea that to this day continues to revolutionize the way we understand human beings. Now, stop for a moment and reflect: if there is a part of you that is beyond your immediate reach, if there are hidden desires and repressed memories operating silently, are you really as free as you imagine? The promise of psychoanalysis is precisely this: to bring to light what is hidden, to illuminate the shadowy regions of the mind, and to allow you to know yourself on a much deeper level. Openings like this are important because they create an initial tension in the viewer. When someone hears the phrase, "You are not who you think you are," their attention is immediately captured. We're not just talking about abstract philosophy, but about something that directly touches everyone's practical life: self-knowledge. In this video, we'll delve into this universe. We'll talk about the unconscious, how it influences our attitudes, and how Freud unraveled the mysteries that shape who we are. But before we move on, it's essential to keep this question resonating: if you're not the one who decides everything, then who's really in charge? This opening is not just an introduction, but an invitation to look within, to confront the unknown, to question the illusion of control. Because, as Freud showed us, true power lies not in ignoring what we feel, but in recognizing what moves us in the silence of the mind. Have you ever stopped to think about how often your life seems to go around in circles? Different situations, but always similar results. Relationships that start full of hope, but end with the same bittersweet feeling. Work choices that promise fulfillment, but end up bringing the same frustration. Even small everyday habits, like responding harshly, procrastinating, or feeling constantly anxious, all of these seem to follow an invisible script. This repetition isn't just coincidence. Freud would say there's something much deeper going on, as if there were an unconscious pattern guiding your actions and emotions. That's why you always attract the same types of people, get involved in the same conflicts, or get stuck in the face of the same difficulties. It's not bad luck, it's not just fate, it's the unconscious mind calling the shots, even when you don't realize it. Think of the anxiety that arises out of nowhere, the tightness in your chest when you face something seemingly simple, like speaking in public or expressing an opinion. Maybe you tell yourself, "That's just how I am," as if it were just part of your personality. But Freud would invite us to look beyond that. This anxiety can be linked to past experiences, to stored memories, to emotions that have been pushed into the back of the mind, and that now return as symptoms. The same goes for repetitive choices in relationships. Have you ever noticed how, Even when changing partners, the dynamics seem to repeat themselves. It's as if you're unintentionally seeking to relive old wounds. Freud called this repetition compulsion, an unconscious tendency to recreate painful situations, not because we enjoy them, but because there's on some level the hope of finally resolving what was left unfinished. And the most intriguing thing is that, often we're not aware of it. We think we're experiencing something new, but deep down, we're just reenacting the same drama with different characters. It's as if we're trapped in an invisible theater, where the roles were defined long ago. Now think about another detail of your daily life. Dreams. Those strange, seemingly illogical dreams that mix memories, disconnected images, and intense feelings. For Freud, dreams are not just randomness, but coded messages from the unconscious. It is in the unconscious that hidden desires and repressed memories find a way to express themselves. Behind every seemingly bizarre dream lies a profound meaning, even if you can't immediately decipher it. The problem is that, living on autopilot, many people never stop to question these repetitions. They don't ask themselves why they feel what they do, nor why they attract the same situations. And meanwhile, the unconscious continues to direct life behind the scenes, like a hidden director who never appears on stage, but decides every detail of the play. This is the great dilemma Freud brought to light. We believe we are masters of our will, but much of what we do is the result of internal forces we are unaware of. Not understanding this means continuing to repeat patterns, continuing to live the same story, without realizing that the script was already written long before you took the stage. And here's the crucial point. Until you look within, the unconscious will continue to decide for you. It's like driving a car without seeing the road, believing you're in complete control, but constantly being pulled down paths you don't want to follow. This is the central problem that psychoanalysis aims to expose. It's not just about resolving symptoms, like anxiety or sadness. It's about breaking this invisible cycle of repetition and understanding the logic behind emotions that seem uncontrollable. Because deep down, what you don't understand about yourself has far more power over your life than you realize. When Freud emerged with his ideas in the late 19th century, he was seen as a provocateur, someone willing to explore territories of the mind that no one had dared to explore before. Psychology at the time limited itself to observing human behavior superficially, as if the mind were a predictable machine. But Freud brought about a revolution. He showed that behind every conscious thought, there is a vast subterranean network of invisible forces, the unconscious. What he discovered is that within each person, there are repressed desires, childhood traumas, and hidden memories that, even when forgotten, continue to operate. It's as if the mind were composed of layers. What we see is only the tip of the iceberg, while the greater part lies submerged, silently determining our choices. Psychoanalysis emerged as a method to reveal this hidden world. It's not just about talking about problems, but about opening up space for memories, dreams, slips of the tongue, and even physical symptoms to be interpreted as messages from the unconscious. For Freud, every detail matters. A seemingly meaningless dream, a misplaced word, an impulsive action, all of these can hold the key to understanding what's hidden. This approach is powerful because by illuminating what was once hidden, the person gains the chance to break out of repetitive patterns and regain control over their own lives. Psychoanalysis is therefore a journey of profound self-discovery. It doesn't promise magical solutions, but rather a process of transformation that begins when you're willing to listen to what your own mind is silently trying to tell you. Let's imagine a simple situation, something that could happen to anyone. You're in a meeting at work. A colleague makes a comment that, to everyone else, seems harmless, but suddenly, you feel a knot in your stomach, your heart races, and the response that comes out of your mouth is far more aggressive than the situation warranted. The next moment, you ask yourself, Why did I react like that? It didn't make sense. For Freud, this is no coincidence. This kind of intense reaction, disproportionate to the present moment, is a window into the unconscious. Often the current situation is just the trigger that awakens something stored inside you, an old memory, a criticism from the past, perhaps even something from childhood that still hurts, even if you're not fully aware of it. Another example is dreams. Imagine that you repeatedly dream of doors you can't open, dead-end hallways, or someone trying to talk to you, but unable to make a sound. At first glance, these dreams seem strange and confusing. But for Freud, they are coded messages from the unconscious. The door that won't open can symbolize a repressed desire, an internal blockage. The dead-end hallway can reflect a feeling of repetition in life, and the voice that won't come out can represent something you want to express, but are repressing. And if you look closely, there are also so-called Freudian slips. This is when you mistake someone's name, say a word incorrectly, or get confused about something seemingly trivial. For many, this is simply distraction. But for Freud, these slips are revealing clues. The tongue slipped because the unconscious wanted to speak out. It's as if the mind were saying, "You can try to hide it, but I'll find a way to show up." Now go back to the initial example of the meeting. If you try to understand why that criticism affected you so much, you might realize it wasn't just about your colleague or that moment. Perhaps it was a childhood memory when someone you loved made similar comments, and it still resonates within you. By bringing this memory to the surface, you begin to understand the origin of the discomfort, and in doing so can transform the way you react. This is the key point. Everyday situations that seem minor are actually signals. Strange dreams, emotional outbursts, repetitions of bad choices, all of these are manifestations of the unconscious trying to express itself. Psychoanalysis teaches us not to ignore these signals, but to listen to them attentively. The great lesson is that nothing in us happens by chance. The unconscious doesn't reveal itself directly, but through symbols, repetitions, and symptoms. And by learning to interpret these signals, we can not only better understand who we are, but also free ourselves from patterns that imprison us. We've reached the most important moment of this journey, closure. And it couldn't be any different, because talking about Freud and psychoanalysis is talking about something that goes far beyond theory. It's talking about real life, about the pain we carry in silence, about the desires we dare not admit, and about the eternal search to understand who we truly are. Psychoanalysis isn't a magic formula to end problems. It doesn't promise instant happiness, nor ready-made answers to all questions. What it offers is something even more powerful, the opportunity to know yourself on a level that consciousness alone could never reach. Think about how many times you felt trapped in patterns you couldn't change. How many times you promised yourself that next time it would be different, only to repeat the same mistake. Freud shows us that this doesn't happen due to a lack of willpower, but because there are unconscious forces guiding our choices. And only when we illuminate these forces, bringing them to consciousness, can we truly free ourselves. This is the invitation of psychoanalysis, to delve into what is hidden, to confront the inner ghosts, to name the feelings that seemed unexplainable. Because what you avoid facing doesn't disappear, on the contrary, it grows stronger in silence. But when you look at it head-on, with courage, you can transform even pain into a source of growth. This is why Freud asserted that self-knowledge is true freedom. Not the illusory freedom of thinking you control everything, but the freedom to understand why you feel, act and desire as you do. It's a process that requires patience, listening, and above all, a willingness to accept that within us there are shadows, but also the key to transformation. And here lies the burning question: who is in control of your life? Is it you, conscious and lucid, or is it the unconscious, pulling the strings behind the scenes? This reflection doesn't end when the video ends.
On the contrary, it begins now, as you think about all the times you reacted without understanding, all the dreams you ignored, all the patterns that seem to haunt your life. The great merit of psychoanalysis is not that it offers simple answers, but that it opens space for new questions, because it is these questions that make us evolve. When you allow yourself to hear what lies behind the silence, when you give voice to what was repressed, you discover a more whole, more conscious, more authentic version of yourself. In the end, the unconscious is not an enemy, it is part of you, a territory to be explored. Knowing it is like shining a flashlight in a dark room. Suddenly, everything makes sense. The shadows are still there, but they cease to frighten you when you understand what they represent. So, when you finish this video, take this idea with you. Psychoanalysis is not just theory, it is a life practice. It is a deep dive into yourself, a journey of courage and discovery. Because after all, the greatest transformation happens when you stop running from yourself and finally decide to find yourself.